Hi everyone, Meteorologist Joel Curtis with your Alaska weather. Starting out with a lot of hazardous weather going on for the state. We'll begin with a wind chill warning along the western Arctic coast, 70 below zero, and that's until 6 a.m. Friday. Also, we have a winter storm warning through the Bering Strait coast and St. Lawrence Island. Up to 6 inches of snow, 45 below wind chills, and gusts of 70 miles per hour. And you could see some near whiteout conditions in that, and that'll go until 6 a.m. Friday. We have a blizzard warning along the Kuskokwim Delta coast and also Nunivak Island, and that's until 6 a.m. Friday. Whiteout conditions, 2 to 5 inches of snow, gusts of 50 miles per hour. Winter weather advisories and the wind chill advisories in the inland areas are tampering down and probably will be dropped by the time that you hear this broadcast. We have a wind advisory along the Alaska Range until 6 a.m. on Friday. That's up to 45 miles per hour sustained with gusts of 60 miles per hour. We have a high wind warning for Juneau and includes blowing snow. There were some wind gusts today, gusts to 65 miles per hour, but that's until about 6 p.m. on Thursday night. That's tonight, and so that'll probably be dropped at that time. There's also wind chill advisory for Skagway and the Klondike Highway, and that's for temperatures wind chill temperatures 30 to 50 below, and that runs until noon on Friday. So looking at our satellite map, we can see that there's some cloud bands moving up from the south. Those are associated with a couple of fronts and lows that are developing down there, but also some higher clouds moving up over the central interior all the way from south central, and also a significant amount of clouds along the west coast and including the north slope. So for today's weather, we have a 970 secondary low pressure system that has moved into the eastern Bering Sea. There is circulation around that low and a front wrapped around it. And then there's also a trough that extends up the west coast, and that's causing snow up in that area and blowing snow. Snow showers all across the Bering Sea until you get down to the Aleutians per se, where it's some mixed precipitation of all kinds that are out in the eastern and central Aleutians. And then that onshore flow is hitting southeast Alaska, hitting south central Alaska, particularly along the coast. But you can see a break for Upper Cook Inlet, but it's still getting into the Alaska Range. Then for tonight's weather, that low that was moving into the Bering Sea has dissipated and become a strong trough that extends all the way up to the north slope from the low pressure system south of AKwx at 964 millibars. That system has another secondary wave developing on it, and also further to the east is a 992 millibar low that is developing well southwest of AKwx. Arctic high pressure persists over the Yukon territory at 1048 millibars. Lots of very, very cold temperatures with that. It's not a whole lot of relief for the rest of the state, but we are seeing a little bit of a warming trend, and that onshore flow persists for the western Gulf, whereas it's offshore flow and still windy in the eastern Gulf, including the Panhandle. Then for Friday's weather, that low off of AKwx is 989 millibars. Arctic high pressure still persists, but the main portion of the high pressure has moved off toward the northeast. A series of troughs through the Bering Strait right on up to the north slope. The low is starting to redevelop south of AKwx at 969 millibars. And as you can see, snow showers over the Bering Sea, snow on up through the Bering Strait. And again, snow persisting along the western Gulf Coast, including Kodiak Island. And then for Saturday's weather, still that Arctic high pressure is weakening. And so we're getting a little bit of break on the wind in southeast Alaska. Still onshore flow for Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and western Cook Inlet. Also the east side of the Kenai Peninsula has still got snow. A trough is still along through the Bering Strait and along the west coast, and there are some hazardous conditions there, and then snow showers over the Bering Sea. So our low temperatures Friday morning, starting out with the Panhandle, 10 for Skagway, 12 for Juneau, up to 16 for Ketchikan, and 24 for Sitka, only 6 for Yakutat, minus 16 for Gulkana, 15 for Valdez, 4 for Talkeetna, 13 for Anchorage, 13 for Kenai, and up to 28 for Homer. And then as we get down to Kodiak Island, right around freezing. Then for our low temperatures Friday morning for the North Slope, we see that it's well into the minus 20s and a few lower minus 30s. The wind, though, has really backed off in that area, and Friday morning should start to see that wind chill warning canceled. Minus 23 in the Yukon Flats, minus 8 for Fairbanks. As you get down over to Kotzebue, minus 5, plus 8 for Nome, and minus 7 for St. Lawrence Island, plus 19 for the Yukon Delta. As we go out the Aleutians, you see temperatures all in the 30s. We're right near freezing for the Pribilofs. And then as for southwest Alaska, we're seeing 28 to 30 degrees, 25 for Bethel. And then for our high temperatures Friday afternoon, in the 20s and lower 30s for the Panhandle, up to 34 for Yakutat, 0 for Gulkana, 25 for Valdez, 23 for Talkeetna, 25 for Anchorage, 28 for Kenai, 35 for Homer, and up to 37 for Kodiak. And then along the North Slope, quite a bit warmer. Minus 12 all the way up to plus 5 at Point Hope, and minus 7 for Fort Yukon, 16 for Kotzebue, 27 for Nome. It's going to seem like a heat wave there. 6 degrees for Fairbanks and 32 for the Yukon Delta. Then going out for our high temperatures Friday afternoon, you can see 40s in the Alaska Peninsula, and going out to the eastern Aleutians, 40 for the Pribilofs, and then just dropping off as we get further out on the backside of a low pressure system, 34 for Shimya, 39 for Adak. And then for our low temperatures Saturday morning for the Panhandle, 11 for Skagway, 13 for Juneau, 21 for Ketchikan, 23 for Prince of Wales Island, and 25 for Sitka. Also 15 for Yakutat, but now it's dropped to minus 19 for Gulkana, 15 for Valdez. And then as we come around, 19 for Seward, 7 for Anchorage, 4 for Kenai, 23 for Homer, and minus 1 for Talkeetna, and up to 31 for Kodiak. Then for Saturday morning, minus teens all along the North Slope. It's still really cold, though. It's at minus 25 as you get over to Fort Yukon. Brooks Range has definitely warmed up some. Then for Kotzebue, plus 8, Nome, plus 17. And as you get down to the Yukon Delta, it's plus 17. Also for Fairbanks, minus 12, but as you get into the Alaska Range, single digits below 0. And then as we're low temperature Saturday morning, as we go out the peninsula, temperatures all in the 30s, dropping off to freezing, though, when you get out to Adak, 30 for Shimya, 33 for the Pribilofs. And then for southwest Alaska, 18 to 24 degrees. And then for Saturday afternoon, our high temperatures in the 20s and lower 30s for the Panhandle, 33 for Yakutat, minus 3 for Gulkana, 24 for Valdez, 20 for Talkeetna, 19 for Anchorage, 22 for Kenai, 34 for Homer, and up to 39 for Kodiak Island. Then as we get to the North Slope, you can see single digits again, a whole lot milder, but still pretty darn cold. Dead Horse, minus 10. And then as you get down to the Yukon Flats, Fort Yukon, minus 10. 5 for Fairbanks, 12 in the Alaska Range. And then as we get over to Kotzebue, 14, Point Hope 6, and then Nome plus 20, 22 for the Yukon Delta, and 17 for St. Lawrence Island, and it looks like about 8 for McGrath. And then high temperatures Saturday afternoon as we go out the Alaska Peninsula. Temperatures in the lower 40s to upper 30s for just about everywhere in the Aleutians. 37 for the Pribilofs. But as you get up to Bristol Bay, 29 for Dillingham, 23 for Bethel, 26 for the rest of the southwestern Alaska. And folks, that's it. Now, pay attention to all those warnings that we've got out there. Wind chill warning for the western Arctic coast. Winter storm warning for the Bering Strait and St. Lawrence Island. Blizzard warning for the Kuskokwim Delta coast and Nunivak Island. And then we also have a wind advisory in the Alaska Range. That high wind warning for Juneau looks like it's going to be being taken down at about 6 p.m. or so. And then a wind chill advisory for Skagway and the Klondike Highway through noon Friday. And those temperatures 30 to 50 below along the highway. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. And that's our public weather.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And now for your aviation forecasts. Starting out with our flying weather Friday morning, we have some IFR along the west coast, up over St. Lawrence Island, Nunivak Island, and a little bit over Kodiak Island. Moving on to Friday afternoon, that IFR conditions have drifted off into the Bering Strait, but still over St. Lawrence Island, also in the western Aleutians, and up against the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island. Then for Saturday morning, that IFR is still in the Bering Sea and in the central Aleutians, also up to the Alaska Peninsula and parts of Kodiak Island. And then by Saturday afternoon, it still remains over the Alaska Peninsula, particularly on the Pacific side, central Aleutians, and Bering Sea. For our past conditions on Friday, AKwx VFR, Adigan VFR, Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR going to VFR and expect turbulence all day. For Rainy Pass, VFR, expect turbulence. Windy Pass, VFR, expect turbulence in the morning. Isabel Pass, VFR, expect turbulence. Mentasta Pass, VFR, and turbulence has dropped off quite a bit there. For Tanita Pass, VFR, expect turbulence in the morning. Portage Pass, VFR, expect turbulence in the morning. And Chilkoot and White Pass, VFR, and expect turbulence all day. For our freezing levels, it looks like some warm air has moved into Bristol Bay area and also into the Unalaska area with a freezing level of about 2,000 feet, otherwise surface over almost the entire state. For our icing on Friday, we have below 2,000 feet extending all the way up to the North Slope. It rises up to below 4,000 feet for isolated moderate as you get into southwestern Alaska. And we have a couple of areas of considerable moderate with isolated severe. That would be the southern end of the Kenai Peninsula, parts of Kodiak Island, along the Alaska Peninsula, some near Cape Newenham in southwest Alaska. And then we have some considerable moderate for the far western Aleutians. For a jet stream, we have an arc of wind starting out at Kodiak Island, going all the way up to the north slope, ranging from 70, ramping up to 85 knots. And then we have the main part of the jet south of Unalaska Island, 115 knot westerlies. For 9,000-foot winds, quite a bit of wind coming off of southeast Alaska with about 45 knots or so. Then it ramps up to 60 knots as you get to the Kenai Peninsula, 45 knots as you go up into south central. And then we have an arc of wind from 45 knots starting at Unalaska Island, across the Bering Sea, Pribilofs, Nunivak Island, and on up through the Bering Strait. For a 3,000-foot winds, low pressure system now out in the Gulf, 50 to 60 knots outside waters, 45 knots over the Panhandle, and then about 50 knots as you get out into the Gulf. Also 50 knots as we encounter Lake Iliamna, and then 55 knots over southwest Alaska, including Nunivak Island, 45 knots up through the Bering Strait. We have very complex turbulence. It's pretty much the same map as I presented yesterday. Low-level wind shear in southeast Alaska and also for the Bristol Bay and Lake Iliamna, Lake Clark areas. So, and considerable moderate below 6,000 feet in that area with some isolated severe right over the northern Alaska Peninsula. Also a couple of hot spots to look for would be northern Lynn Canal, Dry Bay area, also Copper River Delta. And then we also have considerable moderate below 4,000 feet as we come down through the Bering Strait. And the western end of St. Lawrence Island looks like we're going to have some isolated severe there, as well as the previously talked about Nunivak Island. Also, we have an area of considerable moderate below 3,000 feet for the western Aleutians. And then when you get back to the eastern Aleutians, it's below 4,000 feet. Also, don't forget that a lot of this turbulence will occur within 2,000 feet of any terrain. So as you're flying over the higher terrain, you can expect considerable moderate turbulence, especially for the Alaska Range, and then on across the Wrangell St. Elias and into southeast Alaska. Well, that's all the time we have for aviation. Fly safe out there.
Space fans, next week is huge. Mars 2020 Perseverance is slated to land on Mars on February 18th. Pop outside and you can actually see a Moon-Mars conjunction happening on the same day. Look west-southwest any night this week after sunset, and you're going to see Mars's red glow up near the Pleiades. More on that next month. The moon will approach all week, but the big news is the SUV-sized robot that's going to land on Thursday. Once down safely, Perseverance will start looking for signs of ancient life, study Martian geology. Oh, and it's got a helicopter on board, no big deal. That's right, if this baby works, it'll be the first powered flight on Mars. A place with only 1% of the atmosphere of Earth. I'm so excited. This could be a Valentine's Day date. You know, take your partner out, gaze at Mars, talk about our newest robot explorer. What can I say? I'm a romantic. You even could watch this live. It's so exciting. Add Astro Explorers and keep looking up.
If you've been watching this series, you know that NASA has scientists posted all over the world studying Earth's frozen regions. We've got people exploring ice sheets, glaciers, permafrost, sea ice, snow, and even ice on other planets. But even our top scientists need a little backup sometimes.
Do you like going outside to do science?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's fun.
Yeah. What's your favorite part?
Frost tube.
Frost tube! Cool!
In this bonus episode of Cryosphere, we're following the micro explorers that are helping NASA collect data from their own backyard.
Do you think it's going to be frozen?
Yeah.
Yes? Why?
Because it's very frozen!
Here's the idea. Students construct a frost tube that gets put into a hole in undisturbed and uncompacted soil. During the cold months, students will measure the depth at which water in the frost tube freezes, indicating that the surrounding soil has frozen. This is one of many citizen science projects facilitated by GLOBE, the Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment program.
What's going on? What did you find out?
It's the ice!
How far down is the ice?
It's a long way.
So is there still liquid in there?
It's a worldwide program that, so far, has collected over 130 million measurements from more than 10 million students in 113 countries.
Are you scientists?
Yeah.
These measurements are added to a massive worldwide database that's free and open to the public.
GLOBE connects my students with the rest of the world through science and looking at climate change and how it's affecting the future.
GLOBE teachers like Terry are transforming the way kids see science and how they'll respond to changes in their future environment.
Let me see your happy face. Ah!
Actually, we were so impressed with the kids of John Fredson's school that we decided to show their work to the scientists in the original NASA Explorers Cryosphere series. And they had a couple things to say.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Oh my god.
Do you like going outside to do science? Why? How far down is the ice?
That's awesome.
Wow, this is really, really cool.
Hey students from Miss Terry's class, I just got to see your video. I was so impressed that you guys were braving the conditions of the snow and all the crazy stuff to go and learn more about the permafrost and where the water layer is right outside your school. That looked incredible.
It is so exciting to see you guys and girls doing such great work as we watch our planet change over time.
Hey there, young scientists. Looks like you guys are doing some amazing things. Remember to keep warm and take notes, and also stay curious.
Oh my god, this is awesome. I love seeing the enthusiasm of these kids. They're outside, it's obviously really cold, but everyone is so excited to be out there making measurements for NASA. That's wicked cool.
Because you're so right, science is so fun, and I really hope that you'll continue believing in that. The best piece of advice I ever got was, whatever you do, do your best.
And from all of us here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, remember, dare mighty things.
So keep up the great work. Make sure that you're having fun no matter what. That's the key thing about pursuing a career in science. Make sure it's something that you love. And I'm really impressed. So hopefully we'll take the lessons you're learning and apply them when we explore our solar system.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And now for your marine forecast. Starting out with today's ice edge, the ice in the Bering Sea has moved south 15 nautical miles, and next week it's expected to surge southward again as northerly winds kick in. For Cook Inlet, the ice is past Ninilchik now, moving toward the south. For marine forecast for Friday, southeast Alaska waters. 20 to 25 knots on the inside, seas up to 6 feet with some light freezing spray in Lynn Canal. Offshore winds 25 to 40 knots on the outside waters and seas up to 15 feet. And then for Saturday's marine forecast, 15 to 30 knots on the inside waters, seas up to 6 feet in Lynn Canal and 3 feet in Clarence Strait. And expect a little light freezing spray, especially some of those outflow areas. Also for the outside waters, we have 20 all the way up to 30 knots and seas ranging up to 16 feet on the outside, all easterlies. For the south central waters, easterlies 25 to 35 knots on the outside, seas up to 19 feet. For Prince William Sound, northeast 15, seas 3 feet, and Cook Inlet, northeast, starting out at 15, but gale force 35 knot easterlies as you get down toward Augustine Island, where the seas are 10 feet. For south central on Saturday, easterlies 20 to 30 knots and seas up to 14 feet. For the inside waters, Prince William Sound, winds northeast 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And for Cook Inlet, 15 to 30 knots and seas building up to 9 feet down by Augustine. For Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, on the Pacific side, easterlies 30 to 25 knots, seas ranging up to 19 feet. And then on the Bering Sea side, gale force 35 in Bristol Bay and 30 off of Coal Bay, seas up to 8 feet. Then for Saturday for the Peninsula and Kodiak Island, easterlies ranging from 35 gale force all the way up to storm force 50 down by Sandpoint, seas there up to 26 feet, and then easterlies in the Bering Sea side, 40 knots in Bristol Bay, and 50 knots storm force off of Coal Bay, seas up to 18 feet. And circulation around the low in the Aleutian chain. So what we see is 30 knots in the east, and then it comes up to northerly 35 knots as we get out into the western Aleutians, maximum seas 23 feet, As you get further east, seas drop off, especially on the Bering Sea side. For Saturday's marine forecast for the Aleutians, big circulation around the low pressure system, storm force 50 knots off of Unalaska, seas up to 26 feet. As you go further out, wind starts to drop off to gale force 35 and even 25 knots near Kiska, and seas up to 20 feet out there. For the west coast, winds ranging all the way from 30 to storm force 50 knots over the ice. Southeasterlies over the open water, seas up to 19 feet off of St. Matthew and up to 11 feet off the Pribilofs. For the west coast on Saturday, northeasterlies to easterlies ranging 15 up to 40 knots, seas 19 feet in Pribilofs and 10 feet south of St. Matthew. For the Arctic coast, winds 5 to 15 knots as you get over to Wainwright, and then from Wainwright down 20 to 30 knots, and then storm force 50 knots northeast through the Bering Strait. And then on Saturday, only 10 knots on the north slope, but then as you get down to Point Lay, about 20 knots out of the northeast, and then 25 to 30 knots as you go down to the Bering Strait. So for tonight's weather, big trough along the west coast, low moving into the Adak area, 964, that'll be developing, and a low southwest of Haida Gwaii, offshore flow from very strong 1048 millibar high pressure system over the Yukon Territory. And then for Friday, that low is still down to 989 off of Haida Gwaii. The Arctic high pressure is weakening, so less offshore flow for the eastern Gulf, but still some onshore flow in the western Gulf. Big trough up all the way up to the north slope through the Bering Strait and 969 millibars. And then that system develops to 954 millibars southwest of Unalaska Island on Saturday, and still some onshore flow in the western Gulf and a trough through the Bering Strait.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.